Welcome to the deep dive. You send us the topics, the sources, and we dive right in to find the key insights.
Exactly. And today we're looking at a real football legend, the referee, Pierluigi Collina.
We've got some really interesting bits here from an interview with him. Gives us a proper look into his career, his thinking, and, the man himself.
Yeah, it's a good source. Our mission really is to figure out what made him so respected.
Definitely. I mean, 4 times best referee in the world. That's huge. So we want to explore his strengths, maybe any perceived weaknesses,
Hmm.
and that contrast between the intense guy on the pitch and his life off it.
You couldn't miss him, could you? That look. But it wasn't just about the look, was it?
Not at all. His reputation was built on solid refereeing. It's funny, the alopecia that gave him that distinct look, it almost becomes secondary when you talk about his actual achievements.
Right, most refs want to be invisible. But he became world famous for being exceptionally good.
Okay, let's get into it. The interview mentions his background. Born in Bologna, played football himself until he was 17.
Uh-huh. And how did he switch from playing to refereeing? Seems like a big jump.
Apparently, it was pretty casual. A school friend just suggested, hey, let's do this refereeing course.
Just like that. Wow. And he took to it quickly, didn't he?
Very quickly, just 14 years, and boom, he's in Syria. And right away, considered one of the absolute best.
That is seriously fast progress. And he wasn't just focused on football either.
No, he also got a degree, economics, from the University of Bologna. Seems like a very driven person.
Definitely. And he had this whole other professional life going on, too.
Yeah, moved to Viareggio in 91, worked for a bank, keep working as a financial consultant even when he was at the top of the refereeing world.
Which raises that interesting question from the interview. How did he see himself back then? Primarily a ref or a financial guy?
Well, the article says he saw the financial advisor role as the long-term thing, for after football. So it seems that was his main career plan, eventually.
Interesting. It shows that even for someone at his level in Italy then, refereeing wasn't necessarily a full-time, standalone profession.
Right. Okay, let's shift to his presence on the pitch. Watching on TV, he could come across as, well, pretty stern, maybe a bit intimidating.
That's the image, for sure, the intense stare. The article suggests maybe his looks, plus the sheer concentration needed.
Yeah, it might have made him seem older or angrier than he really was, but the interviewer's impression was different.
How so?
Described him as quite a normal man, younger in person apparently, and made a point of greeting the interviewer in English, showing he was, diligently learning.
So there's that contrast again, the immense pressure on the field demanding that intense focus.
Versus the more approachable guy off the pitch. His dedication comes through, though, for football and his fellow refs.
And he had a pretty grounded view on mistakes, didn't he?
Yeah, very realistic. He mentioned that coach, Trapattoni.
Yes, about players making mistakes.
Exactly. Trapattoni said if players couldn't make mistakes, they might as well not play. Collina basically said, same applies to us refs. Everyone messes up sometimes.
It's a good perspective to have in that job. And he also talked about TV and how that changes things.
Oh, right, the cameras, more angles.
Precisely. He pointed out you go from maybe a couple of cameras to 20 at a World Cup. Every single decision gets scrutinized from all sides.
So it looks like more mistakes are happening even if they aren't necessarily.
Yeah, it's the perception that changes. One thing he was really, really clear on, though, was diving. Simulation.
He did not hold back on that. Called it a crime against fellow workers. Strong words.
Very strong. He saw footballers as colleagues, and diving was like portraying that. He talked about, say, a relegation match decided by a dive. It could ruin careers. Integrity was huge for him.
That's a powerful stance. And it connects to something else mentioned, his trust in players.
Absolutely. He said he couldn't go into a game without trusting the players. Believed you needed that foundation for a good working relationship.
So it wasn't just about laying down the law. It was about mutual respect, too.
Seems like it. That was key to his style.
Thinking about his career, is there one particular moment the interview highlights?
Well, it mentions the 1999 Champions League final. Bayern Munich versus Manchester United.
Oh, that final, unbelievable ending.
Exactly. And interestingly, Collina remembered it not for any big refereeing calls, but just the sheer emotion of the game, that crazy comeback.
And didn't the article say something about the interviewer forgetting Collina was even the ref for that match?
It did, which ties into that old saying, doesn't it? The best referee is the one you don't notice.
Huh. Yeah, even in a match that dramatic, his refereeing wasn't the story. That says a lot.
It really does. Speaks volumes about his control and competence.
Okay, let's pause here for our listeners. Quick question based on what we've just discussed. What was the medical condition that gave Collina his very distinctive appearance?
Give that one a thought.
Yeah.
And here's a quick yes or no for you. At the time of this interview, was Pierluigi Collina working as a full-time professional referee in Italy?
Okay, another one to ponder. According to Collina, why might it seem like there are more refereeing mistakes shown on television now compared to, say, 15 years ago?
Think about those cameras. And one more yes-no. Did Collina believe that players should ever dive to gain a tactical advantage?
And finally, last question for now. Besides refereeing, what other profession was Collina actively involved in during his career?
Okay, moving on. The article doesn't really list weaknesses as such,
Mm.
but that perception some people had.
Of him being angrier on the pitch.
Yeah. Even though he explained it was down to intense concentration, you could maybe see how some might have viewed that intensity negatively at times.
That's fair. How players or fans interpret that focus could be different from the intention. But overall, the picture is one of high competence and strong principles.
Definitely. Which loops us back to that difference we talked about, the on-pitch versus the off-pitch persona.
Right. The super focused, authoritative figure during the 90 minutes.
Compared to the more, as the article put it, normal, diligent person away from the stadium.
It really shows how the demands of that job, the pressure, the scrutiny, required a certain kind of projection.
A level of intensity, perhaps, that wasn't his default setting off the field. The article paints him as someone deeply serious about his work, but also maintaining a pretty grounded personal life.
So, wrapping up our deep dive on Collina, we've seen this picture emerge of a referee who got to the very top through sheer dedication, a sharp understanding of the game, a really strong stance on fair play, especially against diving.
And that interesting split between his intense professional image and his more regular personal life.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought based on Collina's emphasis on trust and his view on diving. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much responsibility ultimately lies with the players themselves to keep the game honest, no matter how good the referee is?
That's a great question to leave things on. Definitely something to chew over.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.